The U.S. State Department released its annual Trafficking in Persons report, which evaluates anti-trafficking efforts by governments across the world. South Korea slid down from top-tier ranking for the first time in 2 decades. Suk-hyen fills us in.
South Korea no longer belongs to the Tier 1 category in the U.S. State Department's Human Trafficking Report. The country has been downgraded to Tier 2 for not fully meeting the minimum international standards for eliminating trafficking. In the 2022 Trafficking in Persons report shared on Tuesday, the State Department says South Korea failed to keep up with sustained efforts to root out trafficking, citing fewer prosecutions and investigations of suspected traffickers. It also raised concerns over the country's victim identification guidelines and the court's light sentences for trafficking-related crimes. It's a big shock for the country, which had been listed in Tier 1 for the past 2 decades. The report now calls on the government to do more to protect victims, prosecute traffickers, and prevent trafficking. Matthew Friedman, an expert on human trafficking, says South Korea can do better to protect the victims.
Let's say that a person was tricked and deceived and forced into prostitution, which could be an illegal activity. But because they were not identified as being a traffic victim, when in fact they were, because the protocol doesn't identify them as that, they could go to jail for doing illegal activities.
Friedman warns that it's important to identify victims and protect them so that they don't end up in jail for the illegal activities they were forced to do. Another point he mentions is the lenient punishment for traffickers in South Korea.
Oftentimes the legal system, although it works to arrest people, the crime punishment is very lean. And it could be less than a year for a trafficker. So if the punishment is very lean, then there's more of a temptation to traffic people because even if you get caught, the implications are not really extreme.
Seoul's foreign ministry expressed its disappointment over the downgrade, saying it will closely review the report with relevant ministries to see if there are any parts that need to be corrected or clarified. The ministry explained that the results do not mean that the country's anti-trafficking efforts have been weakened or that the human rights situation has worsened. It said the annual report focuses on whether there's been more progress made compared to the previous year. Along with South Korea, Japan, Norway, and Switzerland were also listed in Tier 2, while North Korea and China remained in the lowest rank, Tier 3. Suk-hyen, Arirang News.